in finishing up my series while I'm doing the review on the Illrigger, I was checking in to see, I had heard a rumor that there was the possibility that the Illrigger had gotten an errata. I haven't heard back from anyone at mcdm, but I did talk to people over on his Discord that confirmed that Matt's currently on a vacation, and one of the things he's planning on doing as soon as he gets back is work on some really focused errata targeting some of the community's feedback. So this review is more so, I think, just kind of a dissection into what was an experimental subclass and maybe some parts of this, why this didn't quite work out. There's this defense, I think they listed it right up here up front. Yeah, often in the Illrigger beta, we'd have a new tester feel strongly about how some things were too good based on reading it, but in play, it was actually pretty mild. I don't know what the playtest proceedings were for this, right? Usually for playtests, really all you're getting back is just, was something fun? The most valuable feedback I get back from playtesting is really, I'm just trying to get the player's perception of, was it fun? And I'm mostly trusting mine or other design consultants' opinion onto like balance and like, does this thing work? So playtest is more often than not just going to be a quality assurance pass in a way. The Architect of Ruin, I don't know if somebody really got this up into a full party at 20th level and really kept actualizing the lore double, because that feature feels like it would be extremely frustrating for the rest of the party to have to deal with, especially in a very heavy spellcaster party. The Architect of Ruin is an experimental 2/3 caster, so I can applaud them for trying to go this angle, but this is on a class that is supposed to act in contrast, or how do I want to put this? It's supposed to be like a darker cousin to Paladin, right? So if we're comparing this subclass to what Paladin gets, it's already getting a really nice Smite replacement with its Baleful Interdict, and then the Arcane of Ruins is just going to get more spells and cantrips than the Paladin is going to get. So already it's coming out the gate a little bit more feature bloated, right? It's a big reason why I gave their spellcasting thing a pink. The pink is just something I'm using on this one to kind of reference that I think that a feature, maybe I'm leaning more towards it being too strong from a general perspective of power, right? But I can't point out that I think that this is absolutely busted, right? I can't figure out a way in which it is absolutely objectively exploitable and acting in a way that doesn't actually work in the game. But these are things that I do think are providing a fairly unreasonable amount of power compared to official options. Looking at their invoke authorities, these are both going to compete for the same resource that you're only going to get once per long rest, so I don't really, in theory, mind these all that much. As a reaction with this veteran of sorcery, to failing a saving throw against the spell, you can choose to succeed instead. Of course, we know that this is going to be very, very, very strong. So it's basically once per long rest, you can choose to succeed on a saving throw against a spell. Yeah, it is specific, right, against a spell. So there may be sometimes whenever you're just not fighting a whole lot of mages, and then, it's going to feel like kind of nothing. And then it kind of gets into the same territory here with Spellbreaker. You call on Asmodeus' authority to protect you from enemy magic. Anytime you're targeted by a magic missile spell, a line spell, or a spell that requires a ranged attack roll a d6. On a 1 to 5, you're unaffected. So really what you're doing is you're always reflecting this, right? On a 6, you are unaffected, and the effect is reflected back at the caster as though it originated from you, turning the caster into the target. So this is a pretty cool, you have the counterspell kind of effect right here, but then you've got this chance of possibly just straight up reflecting the spell back at the caster. Yeah, this is fun. Of course, this is really cool. I wrote something kind of similar to this in my Dancer with the Weave teaser, right? Where if you're targeted specifically with a ranged spell attack, you can twist it back at them. I think we all like this idea for wizard battles, right? That's a really cool cinematic with this. So I do like the narrative of this feature overall. I think that Spellbreaker, really the only crime I would say between these two is that Spellbreaker just seems so much more interesting, right? As a reaction to failing a saving throw, you can choose to succeed instead. Yeah, it's strong. It's just not as exciting as something like Spellbreaker. Their spellcasting, like I said earlier, this sort of a system it's tied to a subclass. I just think like, I've heard reasons and explanations for why this is. I can appreciate again what they're trying to do here with this being experimental. It's just providing way more power than even the base paladin spellcasting is. The spell list is not crazy impactful. And they were limited by the fact that this is an OGL product. So that means with this license, they can only reproduce a lot of the systems reference document spells. So in this, you can see their spell list right here. There's a few new spells that they created that are, I think Matt Colville even went so far as to, claim that they were reskins. So I don't feel super bad in calling them reskins, but single combat, this is just a better version of compelled duel. The big thing for me that like compelled duel really needs, and I don't know if you guys can hear that train, compelled duel could really benefit from something like not having to concentrate on it, right? That's one thing that I think some design territory in a paladin subclass could open up to, you really want to build it around this idea of compelled duel, like make it to where you can cast that without concentration, and that feels real sick nasty. But this is just, it's better than compelled duel. I would say that if you were to have an Illrigger and a paladin, where the Illrigger has single combat, and then the, paladin has compelled duel, where these two mechanics are effectively the same, and the Illrigger is just getting more out of it simply because they're an Illrigger, I don't think that that's a really healthy way to have a spell like this, So I do think that that's great just because it just seems to completely outclass compelled duel. I get why they put it in here, right? Because they couldn't have compelled duel because it's not in the SRD. But yeah, Wall of Death. I don't really have a huge issue with this in terms of balance whatsoever, other than this one effect right here. This is the kind of Wall of Fire effect, right? 5d8 necrotic damage, and then it has this other effect in here. And the first time it drops to 0 hit points within the next minute, it instantly fails a death saving throw. So if you remember some of the wall spells, this is going to act very much like that. Only this feature right here, right? Like, this is another thing with the Illrigger that I think is pretty frustrating to literally everybody else at the table, because if you affect one of your friends with this, and then they drop down, well, they're going to really not be happy that you use the spell slot to do this and potentially screw them over, right? Sure, you should be thinking smarter about your spell casting. Totally get that. But I'm just saying that, like, in failing a death saving throw, right? Monsters are situationally, like enemies are very situationally going to be having death saving throws because it's not tied into the core rules. This is a variant rule, right? So it's either this is only going to apply to your friends, or this is going to apply in very situational combats at the DM's discretion. Otherwise, this is only really a mechanic that applies to negatively affect your friends. So I don't really like this mechanic overall. This Wall of Death being a big signature thing for them involving something like this, this mechanic could just get scrapped right here, and I think that the Illrigger would be much better for it. Some of the other spells, Aura of Desecration, I worry about this one breaking Bag of Rats. I feel like, maybe 5th level spell, you could say that at 11th level, where they get that, right? Yeah, 11th level where they get that spell slot. You might not mind that for that 1 minute. Oh, no, sorry, 10 minutes. A 5th level spell slot to completely heal up to full off of an effect like this, if they're bringing a bunch of rats, you might not think that that's a big problem. I'm just pointing out that, like, this is something that we traditionally consider to be a bit of an exploit, right? Bag of Rats, again, just a reminder, it's like, whenever you create a feature that rewards the player for killing other creatures, you have to be sure to include a clause that makes it to where they can't just carry around a bag of rats and, like, kill the rat to gain a benefit, right? Or kill one rat in the bag, gain a benefit, or, yeah. So Aura of Desecration, it does do that, but it's, again, it's a 5th level spell slot, concentration up to 10 minutes. Yeah, I don't think it's quite as bad as like key consumption, right? As on the Unearthed Arcana Astral Self Monk. But yeah, just as a designer, that's something I tend to watch out for. Hell's Lash, it's a variant on Witch Bolt. It deals fire damage, and if you have one of your seals on the creature from your Baleful Interdict, the Infernal Whip deals maximum damage. You can keep doing this damage automatically on your turn if you just use your action to do it. I actually feel like might be the weakest one on this entire spell list. I was trying to think of different ways to possibly, like, could Bard snag this with Magical Secrets and then cast this up at 9th level. But thank you, Ross, for keeping me from saying this and being super wrong. The casting this up only increases the initial damage, not the follow-up damage that you can do as an action. So by upcasting this, you can guarantee 90 damage that first time, and then it's going to be 10 times again and again. But yeah, it's not all that crazy on Bard with Magical Secrets, so I can appreciate that. Mode of Hell, this is acting somewhat like the Darkness spell, only there's some other effects to it. Think of it like that, right? 15-foot radius sphere. This second paragraph is a real mechanical weight of it. No light, even magical light, can illuminate the area. Creatures fully within the area are blinded. The cloud warps the timescape, and the area is difficult terrain. Any creature that starts its turn in the area takes 2d6 fire damage. Any creature, oh, by the way, there's no save on that, which kind of worries me. Any creature that ends its turn in the area must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or take 2d6 psychic damage as the voices of the damned crowd their mind. Devils are immune to this damage and can see through the darkness and regain 2d6 hit points if they start their turn in the area. So this would be a way for you to regenerate hit points later on whenever you can activate the Capstone, if you do make it all the way up to 20th level. Some of these spells, like I said, they do worry me a little bit into how they're really going to play out. Some of these just feel like they're going to be pretty fun for you, but not really for anyone else in the party, which I don't think is a great way to really design around for, D&D play. But as I said before, these are going to get an errata. This is an electronic document, so they do have that grace of being able to make some changes afterwards. So with that, you're going to get your Baleful Interdicts. With Hellmage, starting at 6th level, when you cast an illusion spell, you may choose to expend an unused seal instead of a spell slot. I think, think about that. That's 2d6 necrotic damage, and you regain 2 hit points per die of damage that it deals. If it manages to crit and trigger on the crit damage, that's going to be a pretty nice payoff, right? Pretty decent overall. I think immediately it's going to be a lot easier for you to just instantly burn the seal to get, whenever you get 3rd level spell slots, to get a 3rd level, 4th level, 5th level, 6th level spell. We're talking about, like I say here, 3 to 5 free 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th level spell slots, as long as you're using those to cast an illusion spell. There's some pretty insane illusion spells you can do with this, right? You can cast Greater Invisibility 3, 4, 5 times per day for free. Mislead, Programmed Illusion. This most likely, I think, needs to have a level cap. I really think that needs to get reeled down to most likely. I think most likely this needs to be capped at like maybe 3rd, if not 4th level spells, because that gets to be a real intense kind of a feature, and we haven't seen anything in the official options that gets that kind of power. So again, if that's your measure for balance, then I believe that this is over that measure. Let's go on to the next feature. So Spellmaster, starting at 7th level. You have advantage on Constitution saving throws. You make to maintain concentration on a spell. Cool. Again, advantage on concentration saves. Fantastic. Instant Illusion. This is one that I do worry about. Starting at 9th level, when you place a seal on an enemy, you can as a reaction. So as a reaction to your bonus action, so it's a reaction you'll take during your turn, cast an illusion spell that normally has a casting time of 1 action. So you can place a seal on a creature that eats up one of your 3, 4, 5, whatever, and then immediately use your reaction, burn another seal, and then cast an illusion spell that typically has a casting time of 1 action as a reaction during your turn. Sure, you're going to burn your reaction, right? Like, I mean, are they really getting many spells that you're going to prioritize with your reaction? I guess Hellish Rebuke is nice. Like, there's your reaction. They're not getting counterspell. They're not getting shields. So, to me, it seems like your reaction is actually pretty freed up. And this is on a D10, hit die class. So, I don't think you're going to be super worried about, like, oh, man. Yeah, I think Instant Illusion, I'm leaning more towards this being a bit overtuned than it being pretty okay, especially when taken in tandem with Hellmage. To me, the Illrigger is getting, if you're comparing this to all the official options, this is going to be the strongest bonus action out of any character. Like, your bonus action being used for Baleful Interdict and anything else that you're going to be able to get on, all the improvements that you get on top of it, their bonus action is super bloated on this class. Yeah, I would genuinely worry about that. And this on top of that, right? You expend your reaction to add basically an illusion spell with a casting time of 1 action on that reaction, and you can still use your action on your turn to cast another spell. So, yeah, I do worry about that. It is specific that it is only illusion spells, but boy, do you ever have a lot of love that you get out of illusion spells with this subclass. 10th level, you get Submit. Starting at 10th level, as a reaction when you cast a spell, you can consume a seal on the interdicted creature to impose disadvantage on their saving throws against the spell. Jeez. So the reaction is a tiny bit cluttered there. It's going to get a little bit more cluttered at 17th level, but again, like, I think that Submit, like, is here. It's a flexible option. I do think that Hellmage is still such a real strong use of your seals. Like, and see, these two are kind of like clashing for this resource here. It's kind of hard to judge. I think that, like, if I was going to recommend a change, I would try to figure out something else to do other than Hellmage, possibly. But it does seem like it's wanting to give you some perks later on against interdicted creatures. Again, yeah, it's tricky. I actually think that might be a little bit closer to blue than purple. Yeah, I just worry about that competing for the same resource that so many other things are going to get a ton of love out of. So Submit might not be all that great in practice. Going on to the next one, by will alone, at 13th level, your illusion spells no longer require any components. That's not just material components, this is verbal and somatic. So, when casting an illusion spell, there is no indication that you're casting the spell. You can cast illusion spells while blind, while gagged, and with your hands bound. So, if you're casting them while blind, a lot of spells specifically state you have to be able to target the enemy, right? So, it's not a matter of, like, by will alone isn't really overriding that issue, right? If you're blind, it doesn't matter that you cast a spell as much as you can't target them. So let me actually do that. Oh, what color do I give you if I think that you just don't? I don't know, light blue, sure. Yeah, I don't think that this bonus is actually doing what it's intended to do, right? I think it should be able to, you can target creatures while blind, yeah. So I do like this effect overall, right? But really, if you just say that, like, your spells don't require any components, they don't require verbal or somatic, it kind of covers that territory already. So I think that this is just kind of like redundant, or maybe, like, I don't know, flavor text at the most. But I do like this feature, right? This is a nice bump. Your spells no longer requiring components is already really big. So I'm going to give all that purple. It just needs, I think that this whole last section can get trimmed off of this feature. And yeah, it just feels unnecessary. Asmodeus' Blessing at 17th level, you can, as a reaction to taking damage, cast Fire Shield. The shield is always a warm shield, deals fire damage, and deals 4d8 damage instead of 2d8. You cannot use this feature again until you complete a long rest. While it's the warm shield, I think it's resistance to cold damage. Yeah. Resistance to cold damage. So yeah, nice perk there. Overall, I'm pretty happy with those. Asmodeus' Blessing. I'm going to give that 1 purple. With this version of magic resistance, starting at 18th level, you gain advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects from interdicted creatures. So you use your bonus action, set this up, bam, you're going to have advantage. Yeah, of course we know that this is going to be a great benefit. It is more situational, so it does reel in the relative power of magic resistance. But again, I'm like, are you going to be consuming a lot of your seals? Maybe like submit now becomes your big finisher move, right? Like you're going to keep magic resistance on them. You're going to get an advantage on the saving throws against them. And then whenever you think that they're that close to dying, you just go through with submit to try and finish them off. Consume the seals. Yeah. So I think that that's kind of how their combo is really going to play out. And then if they're big capstone, this is a real, me as a player, if I knew that somebody else was playing an Illrigger and they had this feature, I would be so annoyed with that player. Starting at 20th level, as an action, you can become a Lord Devil for 1 minute. You gain 3 extra seals, which, meaning you get 3 at this level, 3 free 6th level spell slots. We're going to consider that as long as you're casting an illusion spell. Enemies with seals on them automatically fail their saving throws against your spells. You could have stopped right there, and I would have already been like, holy hell, this is so damn strong. You emanate an interference aura, forcing any creature within 60 feet trying to cast a spell to first succeed at a DC 18 intelligence saving throw, or else the spell fails and they lose the spell slot. Overall, I think the second part of this is pretty cool, except notice that there's no wording in here that clarifies it has to be a hostile creature, creatures of your choice, anything like that. This is going to affect your buddies. And if you're playing a wizard and you're within this aura, because 60 feet, right? We're going to assume that 60 feet of you, this wording needs to get changed. This wording needs some refining here. The editor really needs to take another pass at this. I'm not a big fan of the static DCs in here. The static 18. Man, I think that's going to be super frustrating. Notice that this also, technically, as per these rules, applies to you. So I don't think anything about this second part of this is actually acting as Colville may have intended. If that is how this is intended, I don't know that I would ever allow the Architect of Ruin on my table, because this would be so annoying to play with. Whenever you use a spell slot to cast a spell, so that's not it. Whenever you use a spell slot to cast a spell, there is a 25% chance that the spell works normally, but you do not lose the spell slot. So it doesn't apply to the Baleful Interdict. Right, you can't substitute it with the seal. 25% chance you don't expend the seal. You have an even better chance of preserving one of your 6th level spell slots. Like, it is only for that minute. While in this form, your type becomes Fiend, Devil, and Hell is your home plane. You cannot use this feature again until you complete a long rest. At their discretion, your GM may choose one codex and grant you limited use of one of the abilities from that codex. This had kind of confused me, and then someone reminded me, oh, these are all magic items from Strongholds and Followers. So this is one, and I was already told that they're going to add a disclaimer about this in reference to, if you don't have this book, I actually really adore Strongholds and Followers and highly recommend this, especially if your table is into that kind of life sim style D&D. There's a lot of rules to really love in there. But for the Lord Devil, I'm going to give this one like dark gray. I don't know. Let's go with that light blue again, right? This does not need to affect your allies. This is way harsh. This doesn't feel like a 5th edition feature to me. There's some interesting ideas that are happening here, right, for anti-magic. And I can really appreciate what Matt does for narrative within a class, right? Matt is really fantastic with narrative. The mechanical execution of some of these ideas is the thing that I'm thinking really needs a pass. Probably consulting someone, I mean, throwing it out there, a designer on the DM's Guild to really take a look at this. That's my opinions right now on the Architect of Ruin. And this is the subclass. Like, I was worried about the painkiller for the damage output. Like, you know, there's been arguments that have been made on my comments that I wasn't factoring in some subclasses, but there aren't a whole lot of like fighter subclasses that just straight up add to your damage output. Like, you know, you can do the calculations of average damage output with a lower crit threshold, maybe Samurai getting the extra attacks, boosts that up. Sure, there's other factors you can consider, but the painkiller is also on a class that's getting that Bone Devil, the Summon Hell Bone Devil. So this is on average increasing its damage output by around 51 hit points a turn, if I remember that correctly. On top of a class that's already like really freaking strong. As far as the Shadow Master goes, like the Shadow form is the one thing about this that I'm feeling pretty worried about. Molech's Blessing, you being able to crit with all of your seals and all that. Yeah, there's just some parts of these that need a little bit more mechanical editing. And then, as I said, with the Architect of Ruin, again, remember, these are just my opinions. This one feels way overtuned. Way overtuned if you're comparing this to what the Illrigger's cousin is supposed to be with the Paladin. Guys, I know power is exciting. I know doing more damage is exciting. But like, what's real not fun is whenever you are overshadowing everyone at the table. And like, not only do you overshadow other people at the table with this, you have a feature that actively penalizes the rest of the party members right here if you use it because they're your friend. Yeah, Lord Devil needs a rework. I really think, and I do worry about Hellmage. Yeah, so that's gonna be it on the Illrigger. That is the entire class. Like I said, final thoughts on this. It is overtuned. We do know that Matt Colville is taking another pass at this in some form of an errata. So luckily this is an electronic document and they do have the ability to do that. Whereas, you know, Wizards of the Coast put something into print and there's going to be a whole process in future prints and you've got to buy a whole other book and yada. So if you bought this, you will get, I think I'm on version 2.4. 2.5 will be the version that Matt releases after he's made some changes to it. So, yeah, you know, I think that the right tables that this is for are, if your threshold for balance, right, for what is good at your table, like what is acceptable at your table, is like, well, it can't be any better than the official options, then the Illrigger is going to exceed that threshold, right? If your threshold is like, you know what, I don't mind Gestalt characters, I can throw out like, you know, a +1 weapon, give them that as part of their base inventory, do whatever, then maybe the Illrigger is going to be alright at your tables. I just don't... Yeah, there's a lot of things I worry about with this one, but I will say that mcdm does put in the work. You know, this is a lot better off than some homebrew classes I'm used to seeing from levels 1 to 20 that at times just don't even function. This will actually work from levels 1 to 20. So yeah, that's going to be it on the Illrigger. Guys, let me know what you all think down in the comment section below. If you're new to my channel, I review a lot of D&D related content, do some homebrewing live streams where I do class design, just kind of hang out and chill, talk with you guys, as well as some DM advice, and I don't know, every once in a while I analyze some music. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, why not go ahead and subscribe? I want to give a shout out to all my Patreon sponsors who help me keep the lights on around here and coffee in my blood. You all are absolute heroes. And guys, I want to thank you all so much for being here. I hope you all are staying safe, staying healthy, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.